This program is brought to you by IN.
According to the International Telecommunication Union, more than 6 billion people are connected to the Internet. Yet around 2.2 billion people worldwide remain offline. That gap affects access to education, jobs, innovation, and participation in the global economy. UNICEF also reports that over 1.3 billion children and young people do not have Internet access at home, making digital inequality one of the biggest barriers to opportunity in this generation. At the same time, the world is facing a growing electronic waste crisis. According to the World Health Organization, the world generates more than 62 million tons of electronic waste every year, and less than 25% of it is properly recycled. This creates a contradiction. Some communities are overwhelmed by discarded technology, while others don't have access to basic devices at all.
To explore this issue from a real youth-led perspective, I'm joined by Ahmed from Pakistan. Ahmed is the founder and CEO of Hibiskeys, a custom mechanical keyboard startup that grew from a personal hobby into a business generating over 1 million PRK in revenue within just 2 years. He's also a founder and director of Parvaana, a completely student-led nonprofit that converts e-waste into functional computer labs for underprivileged schools, already impacting more than 100 students and earning a recognition as a Moonshot $10,000 Idea Award finalist. Ahmed, welcome to NextGen.
Hi, so nice to meet you finally. I'm very excited to be in this podcast.
I wanted to start by laying the issue first. When you hear these numbers about the digital device and the e-waste crisis, what stand out to you the most, especially from your experience growing up and working in Pakistan?
So, from my experience, what stands out the most in all of these crises is about the next generation of people that are going to replace us eventually on this earth. And that includes part of us as well. Like we are part of the next generation that are going to be leaders on this earth, that are going to be government officials, that are going to be teachers, that are going to be innovators. So the most important thing to consider in all of this is how is the earth going to look like? How is the world going to look like in, let's say, 20 years? And so if you look at it from two perspectives, the first perspective is the ever growing amount of e-waste. Consumerism has changed our societies to such a high degree that, whenever a new iPhone is coming out, everybody's like, I have to upgrade my iPhone. Yet they don't have a purpose to upgrade their phone. Like what? Give me one sec. I think my camera just went out.
Okay, it's fine.
But they don't have like a purpose to actually upgrade that iPhone. They don't have a reason, but they just want to, have the latest and brightest thing. So what's happening right now is everybody is buying this huge, like heaps of technology, and what is it's doing in return is it's rendering all the technological waste in our society is absolutely useless. So the thing is that waste isn't going anywhere. It's just going to landfills. It's getting stored in warehouses where it's not getting put to use. And especially with the advent of AI now, a lot of computers are getting more expensive because that technology is being used to power those data centers for artificial intelligence. So what's happening right now is you have all this e-waste. So we need to focus on how we can repurpose that e-waste. And the second perspective is the digital divide. You have all these schools around the world, especially in Asia and Africa, that don't have access to technology and computers. So they're going to be stepping into a world that is already transformed 50 years ahead with artificial intelligence and computers integrated into every job. They're not going to feel like they fit in. So I think those are pretty alarming issues to me.
Oh, okay. So do young people feel the impact of tech inequality more strongly than the older generations?
Yeah, I do agree that young people do feel the impact of tech inequality more than the older generations because I'll give you an example like social media right now is so like vital to a teenager's life is bec- which has like eventually led us to being so dependent on it. So whenever like there's somebody who says I don't have Instagram, they're immediately out of all the social and cultural context. You know, all those memes going around, they're eventually like left out of it. So they feel left out of the world essentially. And once they're gonna get older, they're gonna feel it more because there's gonna be like jobs that they can't ever dream about applying to because they don't know how to use a computer. So I think for our generation, like technology is survival. Learning how to use technology is the most important skill that anybody can learn right now.
Okay, so where basically in your motherland, I want to come to Pakistan now. So where do you
Yeah.
see the digital divide most clearly in education, skills, or opportunity?
Okay, so the digital divide, the one of the biggest problem with the digital divide is lack of access to opportunities. So you have all these bright minds throughout Pakistan, and like 90, I think 90% of the schools in Pakistan don't have an adequate computer lab. So that means that 90% of the all the children in Pakistan that are going to graduate in, let's say, 5 years, 10 years, they're gonna not know how to use a computer because if they're going to a school that doesn't have a computer, it's most likely that they don't have a computer in their house as well. So now that's where I see the issue most like alarming in my society in Pakistan, especially. I mean, I went to Parvaana started when I went to my own village and saw the school there. They didn't even have a single computer. So it was like I thought about myself, how did I learn to become the person who builds all these websites, who builds all these apps and all, who got into the curiosity to actually learn how to use a computer and, become like a very proficient with it and become like a kind of, you can say, a hacker with it. So that is, I think, really missing in my country right now is that opportunity for a child to actually go up to a computer and actually discover amazing things. So that's the most alarming issue in my own country.
That's really informative. So I want to move into your innovations and businesses. So Hibiskeys started as a personal hobby, how
Yeah.
did it grow into a business generating over 1 million PKR in revenue?
Hmm. So it was a hobby, but there's like an interesting story about how it turned into a business. So what happened was I was in India, right? I used to live in Delhi for the past 3 years. I lived in India. So I didn't have a lot of like social activities to do there. Delhi has had like a lot of pollution. So I found my love in building custom keyboards as a hobby. So I used to build these keyboards. Now, this was unheard of in my country back in Pakistan. So one day I just decided to go ahead and share like a picture of a custom keyboard I built uh, back in the communities in Pakistan that I was part of when I was building computers instead of keyboards. So I shared the picture of this keyboard that went viral and everybody was like really interested. Oh, what's this? What's a custom keyboard and all? So then this one person reached out to me and he was like quite desperate and he said, could you build me this like very special keyboard that's like split in the center and you have like two halves and it's like tilted because and then he explained to me that he had trouble typing with a straight keyboard because some people have this injury called RSI, which means repetitive strain injury. It's when your wrist become like medically like damaged when you use a keyboard too much. So he asked me to build that keyboard for him, and I was like, I don't know how to build keyboards. Like this keyboard I built was like very beginner, and that keyboard that he was asking me to build, it was actually like a advanced level build that you would actually do when you're 4 or 5 years into the hobby. So I was scared. I was like, but there was this like curiosity of what if I did. And he said like take as much time as you need, take as like much money as you want. And you know, then I was like, it's a challenge. I should take up the challenge. I was bored. So that's what I did for like one whole year. I sourced parts from China, from Germany, from the US. I was ordering from all around the world because we didn't have all the resources in India as well. And then I built this for him, and he was like very happy. And that was when I decided like, why don't I turn this into a business where I build these custom keyboards for all of these people that need them. So that's how I turned my passion into something that is now a booming business with lots of revenue. That I mean, the money isn't main part of why I do it. I actually do it for the community because throughout all this, after I like founded Hibiskeys. We founded a community in Pakistan as well, which has 10,000 active users as of now, more than 10,000 registered users. It's called the Keyboard Enthusiasts of Pakistan. It's on Facebook as well. So I think that community, like sharing my keyboard builds with those communities, sharing my hobby was the most impactful part of my business. So yeah, that's how all of it started.
Oh, I heard you mention a part of your community, So how did community building and social media help you scale Hibiscus to what it is today?
I feel like community building is the most important part of building a business. So we have this concept in my society that you have a service that somebody's selling. And if you sell that service well, if you did a service well to somebody, they will recommend you on to their friends and family, and it goes on and on. I think it's very common around the world, but especially in my country and low economically developed countries, you have this concept of trust that is built on communities essentially. It's not necessarily about how good your product is that you're selling. It's more about how good your product experience is, how the experience of you selling. So once I started Hibiskeys, I was like, my dedication, I dedicated a lot of time to each customer. So I was handling everything from building the keyboards to marketing to getting all the posts out to getting, negotiating. And that took up a lot of my time at the start because people didn't trust me. And I talked to like 100 people. Out of that, only one person agreed that they want a keyboard to be built. So that was, I think, a very like stressful time. That was very, a time where you feel like you can't make it. But after you get a few sales going, that trust builds on and that community starts like growing super fast, that it actually turns into something tangible and people actually start to trust you. That's how your businesses actually scale up. And I think another part that really helped me scale Hibiskeys through the community was that I had a few friends. And I started it with them, and they were like really good to manage the community with. So the most important part is you don't have to do it alone. You can always do it with somebody. So that's why a lot of startups nowadays, it's better to have a good co-founder rather than being a solo founder.
So with access and impact coming to Parvana, it directly addresses the digital divide. What moment pushed you to start this project?
So it was when I was in India, right? In India, I used to study at like a very elite school. It was an elite school for diplomats. And when one day I had to travel back to Pakistan for a family event. And then once I went to my village, I saw my school. I was with there with my brother, and we were thinking about how these schools don't even have like a single computer, like I talked about. So that moment like really pushed me to think about how I can solve this problem. I had already have this I think it's like a very weird quirk that whenever I look at a problem, I start thinking about how I can solve it. Like I think it's a special way of how I look at the world. So in that moment, I thought about my own experience of what got me into technology was that I loved building computers, but from parts that were like used over. So they say one's man trash is another man's treasure. So that was my philosophy. And then I turned it into like a two birds with one stone philosophy of why don't I use that same technique but for building these computers for underprivileged schools. And most probably people would like to contribute. They have this e-waste lying around a lot of offices around Pakistan, a lot of universities, a lot of schools. So why don't they donate these computers and I can actually put them to good use? So that was my philosophy and how I started Parvana and got into social impact projects.
Um, with this big thing, where I'm studying currently, when you go into your first day of studying, you have to take computer literacy module, which is basically Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of those things, like how to navigate your Microsoft Office into that way. And when you see people who are from areas where they did not have access to computers, laptop, they end up like failing the module because it is difficult for them to comprehend those that's so much information, without even slower training or even not being able to compute the given information into your own mind and how to actually execute it onto your computer. So, what was it like seeing students use a tech lab built entirely from donated equipment?
It was monumental because I realize that it's not, it's like when you go to a gym, you don't immediately see results, but you see that, curiosity about somebody who's like determined to put in the work and to learn. That is essentially what, somebody who goes to work out in the gym does. They don't immediately go look in the mirror and see the results on the first day that, oh, I'm growing a six pack, oh, I'm growing these biceps. It's essentially that you gave them the opportunity and then they're excited about it. That was, I think, the most happiest moment about me when we built our first lab. And looking back about it, the most important things one of my mentors from has probably told me was that, Ahmed, you don't have to look at the numbers that you impacted 100 students, you impacted 1,000 students. You only have to look at the emotion, the genuine impact that you brought. And that, I think, being in person and seeing that unfold is probably the most important thing when you build your nonprofit or social impact project, is seeing that genuine impact unfold, not just the numbers. So I think that was the most important thing for me.
So, do you think innovation today needs to be more intentional about sustainability and access?
Yeah, I do feel that it does need to be more intentional about sustainability and access. Um, Even though we live in a capitalist society where these things cannot be or aren't as important, I think we as the next generation of change makers have to really think about how we bring in sustainability into our solutions. I might as well raise some money at a fundraiser and build these computer labs, but then at the end, like, it's not fixing, like it's not reusing resources. Like that's the whole thing with Parvana. I want to use the e-waste to build these computer labs. I don't want to raise money. I don't want to put that burden on somebody else. There's so many creative solutions that can happen. We just need to think about it. We just need to, like, encapsulate ourselves in it. We just need to experience them ourselves. Like my solution with Parvana, that was entirely brought from my own personal experiences, and I feel like everybody's personal experience has this very special little magic in them that allows them to look at a problem and solve it in a way that is sustainable and does care about access. So I think solving those problems with your own, like, personal experience, like you did about this podcast, you want to raise awareness about all these pressing issues and show teenagers actually making this impact in our world. So I think bringing that solution from their own personal experience, from their own personal passion, is what would eventually lead you to build sustainable solutions as well as solutions that care about access. So I think that is what I would consider to be one of the most important things that a young person has to really think about when they're creating a social impact project.
Oh, yes. So, what mistakes taught you uh, the biggest leadership lesson as a young founder for Parvana and also Hibiskeys?
Okay, so even though I didn't, like, have a really big team running these initiatives, even though it was just me along the way, so I don't have, that direct leadership. So it was mostly leadership of my own. Like, how am I leading my own mindset and work ethic through all of this? So the number one mistake that I think a lot of people have to think about is how they look at impact, especially in the short run. So as I talked about with Parvaana, like, it seems such a daunting task to collect all that e-waste and build a computer lab. But I think the most important thing to circumvent this mistake is just to enjoy the process. Even just to accept the fact that even though your social impact project does turn out to be flop, at least you learned something along the way. So to make that learning experience more valuable than the actual impact itself is probably the number one mistake that I had to overcome by doing this, because I used to care about a lot about impact. I used to care a lot about the numbers. But as I started going down the route, I care more about what I'm learning, because what I learned from these failures, from my failures. So every like failed sale or every failed negotiation for my Hibiskeys, I learned something new that allows me to get better negotiations and better sales on the next customer. So it's like an exponential curve. You start like this, you might get like a few bumps along the way, but you're learning skills that makes you like go up and up. So I think that is the number one mistake that I had to really think about when I was building these two big ventures.
That's great. So what would you say to young people who want to solve problems like us, but they feel under-resourced?
It's a very interesting question. And I was talking to somebody else the other day about this as well. Is that if somebody feels that they're under-resourced, if somebody feels that they don't have, a great idea, they don't have the mentorship, they don't have the pathway to actually make that dream a success. I always ask them, why don't you solve an issue in your own life, in your personal life? So, for example, at my previous school, the first website I built was a carpooling app. And I did that because I felt that there was a lot of traffic outside our schools in the mornings and evenings that always made me late to school and also produced a lot of pollution. Delhi has a problem with pollution, especially. So I was like, why don't I build an app for this? Because this is an issue in my life. And turns out that issue in your life also pertains to other people around you as well. And so if you solve an issue in your life, you understand it perfectly. So in the software design phase, we have this, we constantly think as developers, is this feature needed? Would the customer like this feature or not? But once you're building an application for yourself, you have to really understand you are the market, you are the consumer, you're the person who's going to be using it. So now you understand the problem perfectly. You understand each and every bit of it, and you can just build it like with no friction, with no issues, and the product is going to work because you know it's working for you, so it's going to work for other people as well. So whenever I see somebody who wants to build something, who wants to actually make an impact, I say, why don't you solve a problem in your life? And if you feel under resourced, there's tons of communities online. Learning, you just need the internet. The internet is the only thing you need. So if you can get access to the internet, that's like 50% of all resources. I think 90% of all resources, because internet also gives you access. If you go on LinkedIn, you can find a lot of mentors. If you're unsure about how you want to scale your project, they're going to give you exposure. If you just reach out to them, they're going to give you exposure. There are a lot of opportunities around the world, such as I think we participated in the 100 Youth Ambassador program recently. That was a really great opportunity that really taught me a lot about social impact project building. So all of these opportunities exist, and I think the only under-resourced thing in our world today is access to a computer and the internet. So if you get access to both of them, you have the knowledge of the whole entire world in your palms, and you can learn anything and build anything. So I think that if you get past that stage, it's more about how you build your project.
Indeed. Today's conversations remind us that innovation isn't just about what's new, it's about who gets included in the progress. I'm Kudlan, and this has been a great NextGen Innovation on YIN, where global challenges meet youth-driven solution. Thank you, Ahmed, for joining us today. It was a wonderful session indeed.
It was indeed very wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
From ideas to impact. This is where tomorrow begins.
We're the next generation, building futures from imagination. Code the dream, break the system. Next generation, let's get in it.
New minds, new rules, we don't wait our turn. From the streets to the land, watch the vision burn. Tech with purpose, change with soul. Not just ideas yet, we're taking control. If it hasn't